Be sure to check out my second channel called Rob Explains. There you can check out videos where I explain things outside of comic books. So as we continue our discussion on Batman Endgame, what I want to do here is start with a recap of what we had discussed in the last video, and then continue on with the battle between Batman and Superman. So in the last video, we had talked about how Batman Endgame came out of the events of Death of the Family, which depicted the Joker as trying to kill Batgirl and the various Robins, but also came out of Batman Eternal. During the year-long Eternal story from Scott Snyder, while it didn't involve the Joker, it did introduce a woman by the name of Julia Pennyworth, who was the estranged daughter of Alfred. While future stories may see an expansion on her character, within the confines of Endgame, her role sees her working as an informant for Batman while he's in the field, but her involvement also has a background theme of tending to her father Alfred, whom she views as a failure due to becoming a butler for the Waynes. Now in terms of our video on Endgame, as we discussed, in the eyes of the Joker, Batman was a much darker and more ruthless person prior to taking on sidekicks and expanding on the Bat family. But because he had partners and incorporated other individuals into his life who could aid him in taking down various criminals and face overwhelming odds, to the Joker, this would remove the cunning and dark edge from Batman, and instead of returning to his roots as a do-whatever-it-takes anti-hero, the Joker came to believe that Batman's moral code had made him soft. In an effort to rectify this, the Joker implemented the events taking place during Death of the Family as a way to destroy the Bat family's trust in Batman and kill them if at all possible. While the story showed us that Batman was successfully able to keep the Bat family alive, the Joker's plan was ultimately successful in that the rest of the Bat family lost their trust in Bruce Wayne due to the fact that he had kept important information from them in the form of Joker having previously accessed the Batcave and possibly learning their identities. And so with the Bat family remaining alive but distrustful of Batman, the beginning of Endgame saw Bruce Wayne attacked by the Justice League in the form of Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, and finally, Superman. While he was able to hold his own and incapacitate each one in turn, at the end of our video leading into Batman's battle with Superman, Bruce Wayne had come to the revelation that the Joker had targeted the Justice League in an effort to continue the systematic destruction of Bruce Wayne's allies by turning them against him. So picking up with Endgame, what Scott Snyder does here is directly address the debate between Batman versus Superman. In the history of DC Comics, the battle of Batman and Superman is an ageless question that splits fans down the middle. With each side staunchly believing that their side is right, in the comics, the battle between the two usually came down to Batman coming out on top due to his use of kryptonite. What Snyder does here is argue that while kryptonite is a contributing factor to Batman's constant defeats over Superman, the actual reason for his success is because Superman always holds back. While Snyder doesn't necessarily address this question in particular, I would argue that this is largely due to the respect that exists between the two. Throughout their publication histories, while alternate reality stories like Injustice and in-continuity stories like Hush saw the two butting heads, in the end, despite the scenario that brought the two into conflict, their respect for one another always kept Superman from completely destroying and killing Batman, and in turn, allowed the two to mend the rift that existed between them. However, in this story, with Superman operating under the complete control of Joker's toxin, the respect Superman has for Batman does not play a role, and instead, Superman is governed by the overriding command from the Joker to kill Batman. As always though, the element of kryptonite is introduced and comes into play when Batman spits a kryptonite-laced polymer into the eyes of Superman. Containing a green kryptonite dust, the polymer is able to render Superman powerless, and as a result, Batman is able to take him along with the rest of the Justice League back to the Batcave in order to help them recuperate and allow the toxin to run its course. However, the discussion between Batman and Alfred as well as Julia raises an extremely important problem. As Batman states, the Justice League never operates in a singular location except for the most dire of circumstances due to the fact that a situation just like this could occur, rendering almost all of them incapacitated. With Bruce Wayne as the only member of the League with his full faculties, the question now becomes, what does he do if a worldwide crisis were to occur? Furthermore, the motives of the Joker are revisited during Bruce's discussion with Julia, as he states that in the eyes of the Joker, he doesn't see himself as a villain. Instead, the Joker sees himself as someone who has witnessed Batman succumbing to the weakness of dependency by way of the Robin sidekicks and Batgirl, and that their physical assistance and mental support have stripped Batman of his ability to operate without the aid of others. Now, something that I want to do here is I want to wind the clock back to 0 Year in Batman Annual number 2. With 0 Year focusing on Bruce Wayne's journey to become Batman as well as his early escapades as the Dark Knight, in Batman Annual issue number 2, Scott Snyder introduced a character named Eric Borders. As a new employee in Arkham Asylum, Eric was introduced to us as an idealist who viewed Arkham as a place where the criminally insane were largely left neglected rather than being adequately cared for. As he was presented, Eric was a man who genuinely seemed to want to care for the inmates at Arkham, and so in his eyes, Arkham was a facility that served as a beacon for hope for the mentally insane rather than a dumping ground. Looking to restore its former reputation, Eric looked to this facility as a way to rehabilitate criminals in order to allow them to be reintegrated into society. Transitioning back to Endgame, Batman travels to Arkham Asylum in an effort to search for clues that may lead him to understanding what the Joker's doing with the Justice League, as well as the greater plan that he most likely has. While he's there, Batman encounters Eric, who had remained behind due to his ties to his time in Arkham Asylum. In the midst of their conversation, and while Batman investigates the Joker's cell, Eric states that when he first started working at Arkham Asylum, his goal was to help inmates by rehabilitating them. But at the same time, he also wanted to help Batman. Now, while this statement is really only provided as a function of their conversation, to sidetrack here for a second, one of the most common philosophical arguments on Batman is that in truth, because the death of his parents drove him to become the Dark Knight by way of donning a bat costume, that in all honesty, Batman is most likely as insane as the Arkham inmates. But because he stands as the hero of the Batman title, and because he serves Gotham within the context of the story, the light that shines on his character varies from the inmates, and that Gotham City turns a blind eye to his actions and allows Batman to operate with near impunity. However, in the midst of their conversation, Eric shuts the door on Joker's cell, leaving Batman trapped inside. And while Bruce attempts to understand why he's doing this, Eric states that his name is actually a false one. According to a combination of the Norse language and Gothic tradition, Eric actually means eternal prince, and border is a now obsolete Shakespearean word which means jester, meaning that by pairing the name using traditional name organization, Eric Border translates into jester, the eternal prince, revealing that Eric Borders is actually the Joker and has been hiding in plain sight as an employee of Arkham Asylum during the events of Court of Owls and Night of Owls. Something I also hope you notice here is that unlike his appearance in Death of the Family, the Joker has his normal face. While the question that fans had is how this happened, as far as I've been able to tell, there exists no answer within the Batman comics, and Scott Snyder never addresses this in any interviews. However, what the Joker reveals here is that his actions in Death of the Family were aimed at helping Batman to shed his weakness and in return, take him back to his darker role. But when Batman had dropped the Joker off a cliff at the conclusion of Death of the Family, the Joker took this to mean that Batman is beyond being helped and began organizing the events of Endgame as a way to basically kill Batman. Releasing his Joker toxin on the city of Gotham, the Joker states that his plan is to devolve the city into a place of complete madness, and because Batman cherishes Gotham above all else, the idea is to systematically torture Batman by forcing him to witness the destruction of Gotham at the hands of its own citizens. With that being said, we're going to bring this video to an end, and in the next video, we're going to focus more on the Joker, as well as how Batman views him and the events that lead up to the final confrontation between the two. With that being said, I will catch you guys later. Peace.